Hello, welcome to my live stream. Stuart, the Unrepentant Atheist. Thank you very much for tuning in, whether you're watching the recording of the live stream or you've actually decided to tune in live. You're very welcome. So what am I going to be talking about in this live stream? First of all, I'm going to be talking about Paul Agia and Matt Dillahunty, The Line, the episode that went out on Sunday last night. So that's going to be the first thing, the 20th Sunday of October. I'm going to be talking about several calls which I listened to today. I must admit I haven't made extensive notes, but I think I can remember quite a lot of what went on in those calls. Some of them were interesting. Matt was on fairly good form. He kind of lost his zen once or twice, but frankly, understandably. And Paul Agia was good as well. So the other thing I'm going to be talking about is that I had a conversation with somebody who's into sort of New Age mysticism and what a lot of us atheists probably refer to as sort of woo beliefs. This idea that there is a sort of unified consciousness in the universe and that we are somehow all part of this and we can tap into it and be one with it. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Glad that the sound's working. You know something, when I use when I use my laptop cam and my laptop microphone, I never have any problems. It's always reliable. The quality may not be the best, maybe be a bit echoey, but I can be heard and it's reliable. Last time, I don't know what happened, but I got in a mess with the audio. I plugged my microphone in. I had to restart the live stream and that wasn't very good. So I'm taking no chances today. I hope that I'm coming through loud and clear and not too clear. I can see that the picture's a bit grainy, but what the heck? You don't need more detail on my 60-year-old face. So I'm quite happy with that. Now then, yes. So I had a conversation with a lady in a cafe. She's into Reiki and hypnotherapy. She's a hypnotherapist. It's not her main profession, but she's done a course in hypnotherapy, and we talked about all sorts of things. So I'm going to be summarizing that conversation and making a few comments about it. So I've had conversations before with people who believe in the occult and a lot of New Age mystical kind of beliefs of the type that Deepak Chopra has made a lot of money out of and encouraged. So I'm going to be talking about that. But first of all, let's just get through the calls on the line. So let me see, what should we start with? Yes, the first call. That was a funny one, I must admit. So Matt often starts off now saying, if you're phoning in with some esoteric kind of God, that God is love, or God is the universe, or the God of Spinoza, or whatever, a God that doesn't intervene, a God that's undetectable, Matt will often say, forget it, don't bother calling in, because that's not really a God that doesn't intervene, is not really one that's worth talking about. Well, in one sense, that's true, that if there is a sort of deistic type God who started the universe and then let it go and then did a vanishing act, then I suppose that God is not that relevant. The only way that it is relevant is that if it's true that there was such a God or that there is such a God, it will be worth knowing it. So I wouldn't be too dismissive when people phone in with their esoteric gods. I think it's probably worthwhile people phoning in with like God is nature or God is the universe or whatever. It's worth them phoning in because there are a lot of people out there that believe this. And although Matt's dealt with it countless times, it's good if they phone in, and then if there are people out there who believe in this kind of God, it would be good to have that kind of belief tested against a strong skeptic like Matt Dillahunty. I mean, that kind of God can even be tested against somebody like me. I consider myself to be a very skeptical kind of person when it comes to accepting claims, no less so than Matt Dillahunty, I think. So, okay, yeah, so John, yeah, he called in, and I always find it funny, and I'm sure you guys find it funny as well, if maybe a little frustrating, when Matt says, okay, you've told the call screener that you believe that God is, or whatever. Yeah, you phoned in to prove that there is a God. So go ahead, your time starts now. And then the caller will say, well, thanks, Matt. You know, I've always been a fan of yours. I've been watching you for years. And, you know, I think that you're generally sound, blah, blah, blah. And I watched you on the line. I watched you on the Atheist Experience. And then I watched you on the line. And you get this preamble. You know what I mean? You get this preamble. And then they'll start saying something like, then they'll start talking about gods that they don't believe in. You know, I don't believe in the tri-omni God. I don't believe in Krishna. I don't believe in this, that, and the other. And you'll see Matt getting gradually wound up. And he will often say, look, I don't want a list of the gods you don't believe in, because we'll be here all day on this. You've phoned in to prove that your God exists. So go ahead and prove it. No more preamble, no more nonsense. Just get on with it. And then he'll say, oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm going to prove that God exists. And the way that I'm going to do this, and then Matt will come in again and say, for goodness sake, why don't you just, you know, why don't you just say, just come in with your evidence, come in with your argument. We don't want any preamble. We don't need to build up to it. Just say what it is. It's actually very common. It's actually very common for theists to call in and give a big preamble, like somehow that the preamble is like an apology or an excuse. It's paving the way. It's paving the way for an argument which won't stand up unless the stones are paved in a particular way. This is what they're doing. So with John, it took him probably at least 5 minutes into the call before he finally said, okay. What did he say? Yeah, God is nature. When we talk about nature, we talk about nature with a capital N, and we also talk about God with a capital G. And God is just nature. And then Matt Dillahunty just then suddenly said, goodbye, John, you're banned from the show. I don't want you ever calling again. Okay, and the laughable thing is that I think when John started off, people will sometimes do this. They call in and they say something to the effect, oh, you've had such, you know, Matt, you've got such patience. How could you put up with these people with this word salad? How can you put up with illogical arguments? How can you tolerate this and that? You're an absolute saint, Matt Dillahunty. I really admire you. I'm getting tired with all those time wasters because people just call in with time-wasting arguments, and I'm getting frustrated with it. So I've called in with an argument that really hits the nail on the head. And that's what he did. That's what John did. If my memory serves me correctly, he came on and said, yeah, all those people have been time wasters, but I'm actually going to provide some substance. No, he didn't. He was worse than any of them. He was absolutely worse than any of them. That's the thing. If anybody calls in and they say that, well, those are not true Christians, or those theists don't know how to argue their case, etc. If somebody calls in immediately and starts bad-mouthing others who've called in, the signs are not good. The signs are that the call is going to be a waste of time and that it's not going to go well. And this person calling in hasn't got a clue what they're talking about. So that one didn't really go too well. Okay, the next one. So Jeff called in. Now, Jeff was calling in from Britain about, so Matt made this statement, I think, that the UK has a state religion and it's Christianity. Okay, well, Matt's made a few statements, some of which have been inaccurate about British law. So I've done some research on this, and it seems that there is actually no official state religion for the whole of the UK. If you want to call it an official religion, I suppose you could. The Church of England is kind of like a state religion for England, but there's no compulsion to be a Christian in the Church of England. There is complete and absolute freedom of religion in England, as in the whole of the UK. And this is a historical sort of relic of our constitution, which is tied up with the monarchy. So the monarchy is the monarch is the head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. That's an official title. The government is His Majesty's government. So you could make the argument that, yeah, there's no separation of church and state because the monarch is technically the head of state, is the head of the Church of England, can't be any other religion than a Christian Church of England. Yeah, so that is absolute. And ironically, the king is actually the only person in the UK who can't switch religions. That's unbelievable, but true. So in that sense, you could make a case that there's no separation of church and state. But of course, in reality, religion has got no part to play in lawmaking, or at least I haven't seen any evidence that there's a religious agenda in the Houses of Parliament when laws are being framed. We've never had any challenges to the right of women to have abortions. We've never had any challenges to the right of people to hold any religious beliefs that they want to, that contradict Christianity, for example, or at least, obviously, in recent times. There was a time when, if you go back far enough, yes, being anything other than a Christian could be a dangerous thing. So, yeah, so Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, three other parts of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, they don't have a state religion at all. Now, Jeff actually said that Scotland's got the Church of Scotland. Yes, that's true, but nowhere is it written in any statute in Scotland, because Scotland has its own legal system. Nowhere is it written in any statute in Scotland that the Church of Scotland is the state religion of Scotland. So Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales have got no state religion, even if England does. So there you are. If you want to live in a part of the UK that does not have a state religion, then you should live in Scotland, Northern Ireland, or Wales, if it matters to you. But really, these things are just kind of symbolic, I think, and it's kind of slightly embarrassing that we've got these relics, and I would hope, actually, that eventually the monarchy will come to an end and that we will be a republic and we won't have this absurd situation. And then maybe we could have a constitution which separates, finally, church from state in the UK. So the other thing that Jeff didn't really correct, unfortunately, I think because Matt Dillahunty sent Jeff away, and then he apologized and said that maybe he's been told the wrong thing about some of the laws in the UK, and that if this is so and he's made a mistake, that he apologizes to British people, and that in future he probably won't make statements about what the law is in the UK. And I think that's absolutely a sound position. I don't make statements about what the legal situation is in America, because I'm not really qualified to do that, and I don't know the law sufficiently well to make any of those statements. I mean, even on abortion, I don't know exactly what the situation is. I know that Roe v. Wade was overturned. I understand that in some states, at state laws, it's legal to get abortions, and in other states it's not. So my knowledge on that is very sketchy, and I wouldn't want to make any particular statements about what the legal situation is in the USA for anything at all. But I can confidently say that, for example, Matt talked about blasphemy laws. Okay, so yeah, blasphemy laws were finally revoked in the UK in 2008. So the last time the blasphemy laws were used in Britain, I think was something like 1921. I can't remember what it was over, but this law has been so rarely used. Finally, it was revoked in 2008. So we no longer have blasphemy laws in the UK, thankfully, at last. Although we had people like Bertrand Russell saying that Christianity was a lot of nonsense. We've had David Hume back in the 18th century saying that Christianity is not true, and nothing happened to them. They weren't prosecuted. They blasphemed against Christianity. It wasn't a problem, but finally this law was revoked in 2008. Now, the other one is that I think Matt Dillahunty mentioned that there are hate speech laws in the UK. Now, I need to clarify something, okay? I can absolutely assure you that it is fully 100% legal to blaspheme against any religion in the UK. So I can blaspheme against Christianity, Islam, whatever I want. I can go up to King Charles and say, your God is false, Jesus is not real, and Christianity is false. And there's absolutely nothing that he could do about it. Now, the hate laws, what they basically do is they forbid hate speech based on religion, race, ethnicity, and gender. It means, for example, I can't say, you damn Muslim, I can't incite any hatred against any religion or any race, any gender. That's what it's all about. I can say the religion's false, but what I can't do is discriminate and hate on somebody because of their religion. That's what the hate laws are about. I think they're justified, good laws, and they have been used. So that's what the hate laws are about. They're not laws which restrict freedom of speech on criticizing religious belief. That is absolutely essential. Unfortunately, I don't think that anybody has called into Matt Dillahunty to acquaint him with that fact. So that's what the hate speech is about. You can't go and hate on people because of those reasons: ethnicity, race, religion, and gender. Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. Right. Okay. Now there was Travis. What did Travis talk about? Yeah, okay, I remember what Travis talked about. This was a bizarre call, okay? Travis claims to be an atheist. Travis called in to say that there's a difference between knowledge and belief, and that knowledge is something that we're certain about, whereas belief isn't. Now, Matt very quickly contradicted that and said no. He said that you don't need certainty to claim knowledge on something, and that knowledge is something is a claim to the truth that you've got an exceptionally high level of confidence in order to say, I know this to be true, rather than I believe this to be true. Excuse me. Now, he came out with a really good example near the end of the call to illustrate this. A really good example. The distinction between, in a practical sense, the distinction between knowledge, or to say that you know something and that you believe it. For example, he used an example where Arden said, I don't know, where are the keys to your pickup truck? And Matt's reply was, well, I believe I've got a spare set in the bedroom, but I know that the other key is in the ignition in the pickup. So where's the distinction? Okay, well, there's a distinction because he's got this belief that there is a key in the bedroom, but it seems to be the way he's used that word, and the distinction is that he's less confident that there are actually keys in the bedroom than his knowing that there are keys in the ignition. Now, maybe he knows that there are keys in the ignition because he's just been outside and he's left his keys in the ignition, and he knows that he's been there maybe just 5 minutes ago. Whereas maybe he left the keys in the bedroom, maybe he left them in the bathroom, maybe he left them somewhere else in the house. But to the best of his belief, they're in the bedroom. But he could be wrong. Whereas he's got such a high level of confidence that he's left keys in the ignition, he's willing to say that he knows. I thought this was a really good way of illustrating how, in a practical sense, to say that you know something is that much stronger confidence in the truth of it than saying that you believe in it. So, yeah, now I'd like to say that it's very rare, from my experience, it's very rare for atheists to nitpick and quibble over the distinction between, or at least nitpick and quibble over knowledge being less than certainty. Typically, theists will say, no, knowledge has got to be certainty. Anything less than that is belief. And we've all got beliefs which can't be proven to 100-degree certainty. And in a way, they're all like the same. They're all on the same level. And Travis was trying to say, I want to have the highest level of confidence in facts or things that I know, beliefs that I've got, in order to call them knowledge. And he doesn't want anything less than that. In other words, if he doesn't have this ultra high level of confidence in order to call it knowledge, then he doesn't want to believe things at all. This strikes me as being dangerous and limited, because, as has been kind of established in the conversation, we can't really have certainty because of one of the problems of hard solipsism, for example. We can never really have certainty on any proposition outside of mathematics, for example, and certain definitional things. We can't have 100% certainty. So I've heard this argument from theists, and they're trying to equivocate atheist positions, atheist beliefs on quite mundane things. Like, for example, I believe that bananas grow in bunches. Just for example, that's my belief. I haven't got 100% certainty in it. It's my belief from what I've observed, from evidence that I've seen, that bananas grow in bunches. Well, it may well be the case that there's a banana somewhere that doesn't grow in a bunch and grows individually. But I'm able to say with a very high level of confidence, okay, I can't be certain, but bananas grow in bunches. So what he's trying to say, what theists often say is, well, that belief is no different from the belief in a God, because also my belief in a God, or theist belief in a God, is not certainty. It can't be counted as knowledge. It's just the same as your belief that bananas grow in bunches. So, okay, so I think that's a fallacy, because the belief in the existence of a God is of a different order of claim compared with the belief that bananas grow in bunches. One is a mundane, earthly belief in the material world that we can observe and document. The other one is a sort of transcendental, metaphysical belief that we haven't really got any, kind of real evidence for. Okay, I know that people will say, well, the world is evidence, or people are evidence for the existence of God. Well, no, that hasn't really, in my view, and in the view of a lot of skeptics, that hasn't been demonstrated to any high degree of confidence. So I'm just uploading a video. I did a reaction video on this call because I thought it was quite a good one. And what was amazing was that I thought Matt broke down his position so well, and he couldn't have been clearer, really. And then right at the end, the caller said, okay, that's fine, but can I just make one comment before I go? And Matt said, well, okay, but you could see that Matt was getting a bit wound up. And so Travis said, I still think that knowledge has got to count as certain knowledge. Otherwise, you can't really say that you know something. And Matt said, do you think that after I've just spent 25 minutes taking you through this and demonstrating the fallacy of it, that you can just right at the end disregard the whole lot and then run away claiming a victory? And I think he banned him from the show. He said, go away. I don't want to talk to you again about this. That's it. Finished. Finito. Okay, let me just, I'll have a quick look at your comments, but it doesn't seem to be too much coming in. We've got Wesley Curry II again, who seems to me is on some kind of mission to convert everybody in the atheist online community to Christianity. So welcome, Wesley Curry II, and I admire your persistence and your determination. Okay, so let's move on then. So Maverick called in. I haven't really got a good memory of this call. He called in to say that knowledge of moral wrongs is evidence for the existence of God. Okay, so I haven't got a good memory on this particular call. I'm not too sure why. I think maybe I've heard calls like this so often, and I'm not a great fan of arguments that because we've got this intuition about what is right and wrong, that this is somehow evidence for the existence of God. And the reason for that is, I think that even Richard Dawkins has demonstrated or explained fairly well why the kind of moral principles which, let's face it, virtually every society is more or less agreed on. I mean, obviously not through history, because we know that at some time in the distant past that, I don't know, people were being sacrificed to various gods out of fear and ignorance and other reasons, and that would have been considered a moral thing to do for the tribe, because they believed that they were protecting the tribe, and it was worth sacrificing an individual to protect a tribe from the dangers of the elements and, I don't know, earthquakes or tornadoes or whatever might come from a sort of imaginary god. So we know that at one time it was considered moral for old men to marry under 16 girls. I mean, actually quite young girls as well. Up until, in fact, even in Victorian times, it wasn't unusual in England for like 50-year-old men to marry. Well, I don't know how young, but before the age of consent was established, there was no outcry in the Victorian community that this is immoral. So I can't make the statement that all the morals that probably in the UK are sort of universal, at least within the UK, in virtually every single community, are universal around the world. I don't know that for a fact, because there are different tribes who have got different beliefs, there are different nations where laws are different. In some nations, the law of consent for sex is 16, as it is in the UK, and it's older in some countries and younger in other countries. And yeah, so it's by no means universal, but I suppose there are some principles, moral principles, that we're kind of all agreed on, like stealing is wrong, killing is wrong, lying is wrong, etc., etc. And where does this come from? So I think that Richard Dawkins made a fairly good case. Not just Dawkins, others have made a good case that tribes found it useful to have these laws. For example, if you were the leader of a tribe and you were building up your wealth and you had people stealing it, you could establish a law that there should be no stealing, not just from me as the leader of the tribe, but there should not be any stealing at all, because it encouraged enterprise, for one thing. So people would people in the tribes would go out and, I don't know, try and kill more deer and try and, if they thought there was going to be some reward and benefit that they could retain, then they would bring more wealth into the tribe. Whereas if they thought people were going to steal it from them and there was going to be no punishment for that, people could do it with impunity, then obviously it wasn't a good thing for the tribe. So anybody with any intelligence would realize we've got to have rules and regulations to help the tribe to flourish. So I think that a good case has been made that it's not that these things feel wrong to us. These things felt wrong to people. Stealing felt wrong to people because there may have been a time when stealing didn't feel wrong, that people would just take off others. And these tribes never really flourished. And the ones that did flourish are those that had rules and had laws against stealing, laws against killing, laws against bearing false witness. They're the tribes that did the best. And so all those that had no rules just died out. And that's why we've now got countries with statutes and laws. And also not just that, because there are things which are not illegal, but which many people would consider to be immoral. For example, it's not illegal to lie, well, unless you're lying for financial gain in certain circumstances, and other circumstances, it's obviously illegal to lie in court and to the police. But it's not illegal for me to tell a lie. If I'm, I don't know, asked by my girlfriend, where were you last night? Why weren't you answering your phone? I'll say, I was with my friend John. We were out having a drink. Yeah, and it turns out I was with another woman. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's not illegal. That's not illegal at all. But people would generally consider it's immoral to tell that lie. Okay. Yeah. So of course I reject the proposition that we have a sense of right and wrong because it comes from a God. I think we've got a sense of right and wrong because of our upbringing. When I was growing up as a boy, I took something from my sister. She had a birthday. This was when I was about 3 or 4 years old. She had a birthday and half of the cake was left. The cake was put into the fridge. And in the middle of the night, I got up, I went down, I ate the whole lot. I didn't think anything of it. I just ate the whole lot to myself. And I didn't feel any guilt. I enjoyed the cake. I went back to bed. And in the morning, my mum said, "Where's your sister's beautiful birthday cake? There was half of it left." And I said, I was hungry in the night. I got up and I ate it. And she said to me, "That was wrong. That was your sister's cake. You shouldn't have done that." And that was when I think that something started to process the concept that taking things off other people, depriving other people of things that belonged to them or they had a right to, was the wrong thing to do. So it's not that when I was young I had a feeling that these things were wrong. My mother taught me. Okay, well, you can say, who taught my mother? Well, her mother taught her. And it goes back, you can trace it all the way back to those primitive tribes that were laying down the foundations of good, solid, structured society. So I haven't really summarized the call, have I? I've just said my own piece about responding to Travis. But I think that Matt and Paul more or less sort of covered that. And as I recall, Paul justified his belief that harming infants or torturing infants is wrong. So he referred to his morality, which the main principles are that if something encourages the flourishing of an individual, it's moral and good. And if it's destructive and harmful on an individual, then it's wrong. And on these principles, he kind of constructs his morality. And that's fine. I've got no argument with that. So, no, I don't believe that this is the case. And yeah, okay. So let's move on. What else have we got? Michael called in. I've written down here, religion is still useful today. Again, it's another call that I sort of lost I lost sight of. I think I was listening to it, and then because I'm actually working when I'm listening to. Because look, I mean, the line is a 3-hour program, and I don't make much money out of YouTube. I mean, it pays for a few coffees a week, and I do it mainly for interest, not for money. So I've got my own business, and I work during the day at my computer, I work from my laptop, and while I'm doing that, if I'm doing something that's fairly automatic, I listen to the line and make notes now and again while I'm working. So unfortunately, with Michael's call, I kind of missed it, but I can comment on the claim that religion is still useful today. I wouldn't deny that religion has got uses today, and that it is useful in many ways. It certainly fosters a good sense of community, and having mixed in a church community for the last year, mainly because obviously my partner's a Christian, and I've been mixing in the church community. I've seen how religion can be useful. If that church hall was not there in the community, that church hall is used for the photography club, it's used for children's events, it's used for dances and other things. I don't know where those events would take place in this particular community. It's quite a big church community. There's about 500. There's about 500 people who sort of regularly go to church, and all right, I admit the average age is about 70. So, yeah, it is mostly older people, but I've noted that a lot of people get married there, and for funerals. So, yeah, of course, religion is useful, and Christianity, the Christian structures in the UK are useful as they are around the world. They collect for charities. I actually donated some cans of chickpeas, which I found in my partner's larder. Well, she doesn't eat chickpeas, neither do I. I don't like them, neither does she. I think somebody passed them on to her. And I gathered 4 cans of chickpeas, and I donated them. I donated them to the food bank, and they were very grateful. By the way, they were organic chickpeas, actually quite good ones. So yeah, so they collect for charity. They've done, they've done work in Ukraine. So yeah, of course, religion's useful. Maybe not all religions are useful, but you can't deny that religions have been useful and are useful. However, my interest in religion, Matt's interest in religion, and the interest of many of you guys in religion, those of you who are skeptics, is not how useful it is. It's whether it's true. And that's it. That's all there is to it. That's all I'm interested in. Of course, we know that religions have also been destructive. And I would say that Islam is a force for destruction in the world. When I think about the millions of women and children who are going to Islamic schools in Pakistan, in Iran, Syria, Iraq, they're going into those schools and they're spending half the day learning how to recite the Quran. It doesn't quite break my heart, but if my son was forced to do that, it would break my heart. And it's a monumental waste of time. The only thing you could say it's good for, possibly, is it might help with memory. I don't know. But apart from that, the fact that girls are not allowed to go to universities in many Islamic countries, and just the whole way that Islam operates when they get control of a country is one of the worst things in the world. And yeah, of course, give me Christianity any day rather than Islam. Absolutely. I mean, if we're not going to have 100% secular society with no religion, then definitely, yeah, I'll take Christianity. I don't mind a dose of Christianity now and again. It's okay with me. But it's like, I was asked recently by somebody in the church, because I said, I don't really believe in Jesus. I don't believe in the resurrection. And she said, well, what do you believe in terms of Christianity? I said, well, I believe in, some of the parables have got good morals to them, and some of what Jesus, or even a lot of what he said, kind of makes sense. And there are some good things to learn from the Bible. And she said to me, well, at least you believe in some of it. Yeah, of course, I believe in some of it, but what I don't believe are the extraordinary claims. So I've got no problem with the Bible. I've got no problem with the Bible at all. I've got no problem with a lot of the claims. I've only got problems with the extraordinary claims. That's all it's about. Okay, so let's see. There was a very good call. I haven't actually made a note of it, but it just showed the contrast. It showed the contrast in how Matt deals with time wasters like John, who called in to say there's one true God, and that is nature. And with another caller, I think either a lady called in or somebody, I think it was a lady, yeah, and she was wanting to talk about, I don't know, she's deconstructing or something, and she's looking for a way out of religion. And I mean, Matt was completely different with her. He was completely, I mean, he couldn't have been nicer. So it just shows that if people call in honestly and they're prepared to answer questions and engage, he doesn't get angry. But of course, he does get angry with people that won't play ball. Right. Oh, yeah, Maureen. I think it might have been Maureen. I'm not too sure. But she phoned in to say history is full of faith in God. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that because religious faith is so widespread, it almost looks like we've got something hardwired into us by a higher power. A lot of people think like this, that there must be some truth in religion. In other words, there must be some kind of reality beyond this one. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people that believe in it. Well, I understand that argument. I don't think it's a good one, because this is an unprecedented question. It's not a question that compares with any scientific question, like, for example, on the shape of the Earth. People at one time believed it was flat. Some still do, of course. But now we know that by fact it's a globe. So it's not like we can say, and I never really do this, that when people refer to the big numbers that believe in religion, I never say, well, big numbers used to believe that the Earth is flat and they turned out to be wrong, because that could be falsified. Sooner or later, it was going to be demonstrated that the Earth is a globe. I mean, I believe that the ancient Greeks had figured out the Earth was a globe, and they had ways of doing it. And yet still people believed it was a globe, and people believed the Earth was flat. And it took until maybe the 18th, 19th, 20th centuries when it was an absolutely indisputable fact. Now, I know that some are disputing it, but there are no academics, there are no geologists, there are no geographers, there are no academics who work in universities, who've got PhDs. You won't find a single one that accepts there is a flat Earth, right? And yet you will find a significant percentage of academics who don't believe that CO2 emissions are responsible for global warming. I was quite surprised about this. I did some research recently because I was talking to a friend about global warming, and he said to me, well, do you know how much CO2 there is in the atmosphere? I said, yeah, 0.4%. Is it something like that, 0.4%? Or is it 0.04? It looks like a very small percentage. It was 0.2. I think now it's 0.4. And he said, you know that most people haven't got a clue how little CO2 there is in the atmosphere. And I said, well, what difference does that make? I said, it only takes 1 part in 10 million of Novichok to kill you. I said, it's not about how big the percentage is, it's about the effect of that percentage and indeed the increase. And the fact that most people haven't got a clue what percentage of CO2 there is in the atmosphere has absolutely no bearing on this debate. They don't know because they haven't checked up on it. So I've checked up on it, and I know it's a very small percentage, but that CO2 molecules are actually very strong absorbers and retainers of infrared sunlight, where the heat is stored in them. So they actually have a disproportionate effect on the atmospheric temperature compared with other particles. However, nevertheless, there are a significant number of academics who don't accept that human activity is responsible for global warming. Okay, so just coming back to what I was saying about the number of people who have got faith and who've got religion, and that this somehow means that there must be something in religion. Otherwise, so many people wouldn't have religions. And no, because it's an unprecedented question. This whole religion question and where did we all come from is unprecedented. None of us have got any privileged information which can give us an answer to this question. And it's natural. Human beings are curious. We've got language. It's natural that at some point in the past people asked, where did we all come from? It's a question that we are all yearning to know. We're all desperate in a way. Not desperate, let's not say desperate, but it's the one thing that we would probably all really love to have an answer to is, where did we come from, if anywhere at all? And where are we going, if anywhere at all? And it's quite normal then that we will have religions that developed to answer these questions, to answer this need that people have got to answer these questions. And one of the reasons is only human beings understand what death is. Animals out there, insects, etc., they're happily living their lives. They've got absolutely no idea what death is. They've got no idea that their lives are going to come to an end, so they can go ahead and live their lives quite happily all the way up to the end. Whereas humans, we know we're going to die as we get older, and much older, particularly if we have a fatal terminal illness. We could be terrified of death. So religion is something which gave us comfort. So it's no surprise to me that the bulk of the world's population have got a religion, just because in some way it fulfills a need and gives them something that science can't give them and other people can't give them either. So yeah. Okay, so that's the line really. I didn't cover all the calls, but I covered most of them. Now then, this conversation that I had with sort of new age mystical believer, this lady in a cafe that I happened to get in a conversation with. So yeah, I asked her, what does she do? So she said, well, she's a hypnotherapist. Well, she's a language teacher mainly. She's Moroccan. And I asked her, what religion did you grow up in? And she said, Islam. I said, all right. I said, so are you a Muslim? And she said, yes, she is. She identifies with Islam. Actually, she didn't, how can I say? I mean, she looked very westernized, if you understand what I mean. She wasn't dressed in the normal sort of clothes that Islamic women wear, sort of black and everything. And no, she was dressed in quite a colorful kind of, I would never have guessed that she's a Muslim, from her appearance. It shows how narrow I am, doesn't it? Yeah, I expect Muslim women to look a particular way. But anyway, no, she looked very westernized. And I said, okay, so you believe that Muhammad was a prophet and that he took dictation from Allah and wrote down the word of God in the Holy Quran. And then she starts saying, well, You know, I'm a Muslim, but I don't quite see religion as rigidly as that. I believe that, okay. She said, I believe that everything is energy, and energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed, and that we've all got to tune in to this universal energy. That's the way to live your life. It's funny, she's saying that to me, and I'm thinking, well, that's not Islam at all, and you're calling yourself a Muslim. I get that she's probably a cultural Muslim, but that she doesn't really believe in it. She doesn't really believe that suicide bombers are going to get 100 virgins when they die. She doesn't believe in any of that. She probably doesn't believe in Sharia law, or, okay, I know that Sharia law is not, strictly speaking, Islam, but it seems to me that she's a cultural Muslim. So yeah, she's a hypnotherapist. She also does energy work. She does this and she does that. And then I asked her whether she believed there was any life after death. It's an interesting question for her. And she said that, yes, she did believe that there was something beyond this world when you die. I said, well, why do you believe that? She said, well, her mother died 5 years ago. And after her mother died, she said that she could feel her presence. And this told her that her mother was with her, albeit in another dimension. And that's where we're going when we die. Okay? Well, I couldn't argue with that, could I? I didn't want to. Look, that's a special belief that she's got, and I don't step on people's toes. If somebody's got a cherished belief like that, and it's providing them with comfort, I'm not one that's going to say, well, how can you be sure that it's not just a feeling that you've got, which has got no reality to it? I didn't go down that road. If she'd been arrogant and horrible, I probably would have done, but she wasn't. She was sweet and she was nice. And I didn't really comment too much on that. I went in another direction. I said, so do you believe that when you die, you're going to be with your mother in this other dimension? She said, yes, she does think that. And I said, do you think you will then go on for all eternity? And she thought for a moment. She said, yes, she does believe that's true. And I said, what do you imagine the other side is like? What do you do there? Anyway, then she started talking about YouTube videos that she'd seen where people had been, I don't know, they died, near-death experiences, and they'd come back and they talked about what it was like in this other dimension. I've watched some of those videos, and every single person has got a different story and has got a different vision. So I didn't comment on that. I didn't critique her on that either. But I did say, look, I appreciate that you've got these beliefs, you've got this intuition, you've got this feeling about energy and everything. Is it possible that you're wrong? And in fact, that there's absolutely nothing beyond the material world, and it's all just wishful thinking. Do you think there's any possibility of that? Bearing in mind, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but from my own point of view, I haven't had your experiences, and I haven't really seen enough evidence to convince me that there's anything beyond the material world. And she said, yes, she does very strongly believe that there is something. And she went back to talking about her mother and, I don't know, various YouTube videos that she's seen and other things. And then I said, do you believe in ancient aliens? Yeah, because she was talking about the size of the universe, and there must be something out there. There must be alien life out there. And I said, well, yes, I believe there probably is alien life out there, but even if it's advanced, it would be too far away to get to us. And she said, well, I think they've already been. I think they've got the technology to come here. I said, well, why do you think that? She said, well, the Americans have been covering it up for years. I thought, oh dear, oh no. What YouTube channel has she been following? And I said, why would they cover it up? the most exciting news, evidence of extraterrestrial life. Why would they cover it up? And she said, well, because we're not ready for it yet. When will we be ready? I said, well, I'm ready. I said, let them come. I wish they would come. I wish that if they're here, they would appear over London in a big spaceship and just say, here we are. And yeah, so with the ancient aliens, I said, you probably believe that. I probably know everything that she believed. I said, I think you probably believe that aliens built the pyramids, don't you? She said, oh, yes, they did. They didn't have the technology. I said, so in other words, the Egyptians get absolutely zero credit for the amazing pyramids. And she said, well, no, because they sort of built them. They showed them how. I said, well, yeah, they don't get the credit then because the brains behind it is the aliens, not them. I said, did the aliens also build the Acropolis in Greece? Did they build the Rome with all the magnificent buildings and everything? She says, I'm not really too sure. So I did say to her, for her information, I said that Egyptologists, there are no Egyptologists in any of the universities that believe aliens built the pyramids, and they worked out how they've done it. They've just done it with thousands of slaves and a lot of effort and some very clever engineering. And she said, well, they would say that because, they're making money out of it. I said, oh, you're not a conspiracy theorist, are you? Well, we had a bit of a laugh, and I didn't want to fall out with her. I was kind of laughing and doing a sort of tongue-in-cheek because she seemed quite nice, and I didn't want to offend her with too much skepticism. I think with skepticism, you've got to use it sparingly in the right situation, which is what I did. Maybe I planted a few seeds of doubt. I don't know. Something for her to think about, perhaps. Maybe not, or maybe yes, she'll think about some of what I said. But so if I meet somebody who's really arrogant, then I will go full on with a skeptic treatment. But she was nice and she was sweet about it. And I enjoyed the chat with her. Okay, well, that's about it, really. Just to answer Jim's question, do you attend church with your partner? Yeah, well, yes, I do. Yeah, I do still attend church once a week, 1 hour session on a Sunday morning. She's been overseas actually in the last week, so I didn't go to church on Sunday. So obviously I only go when she's around. Any change in my beliefs? No change in my beliefs. Not really. No, I mean, no, not at all. I'm still the atheist, still the same old atheist. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Anyway, I better get going. I'm going to sign off now. This has lasted about an hour, so it's not too bad. Hope you've enjoyed it, and for those of you who are not watching live, you tuned in. I hope you lasted until the end, and if you did, congratulations. Okay, bye for now. Catch you next time. Good night.